These are the U.S. soldiers who face the first threat of bombs wherever they go. With the motto, "Engineers lead the way," soldiers from the 321st Engineering Company, 67th Route Clearance Package, based at Camp Marmal in Mazar-e-Sharif, are gearing up for a mission.
EOD went there yesterday and they searched that whole area. They found the cards that we said were in the ATAC report. However, when they went up there, our chem lights were gone and the mines were gone. They were taken. So we're going back up there, make sure that they search the right spot. We're going to take them there and see if we can't find anything else.
First Lieutenant George Harrival is leading his troops on today's mission. A set of unexploded mines was found on a mountaintop near a local marketplace. This team plans to escort the Explosive Ordnance Detachment, EOD, up the mountain and to exactly where they were spotted. A mission that will bring the troops into a potential minefield.
When we're moving our way up the mountain, you're going to walk in a linear formation. Make sure you walk in the same path as the person in front of you, all right? Mine clearance. Do not walk outside of the cleared area, and do not walk outside the path of the guy in front of you, all right? Keep that safety in mind.
After the briefing, the troops mount the trucks and drive off the base and outside the wire. The route takes the convoy through the city of Mazar-e-Sharif, a highly populated area that keeps the troops on edge, checking every oddity for a potential threat.
I definitely look for anything that's unusual to me, that stands out. Maybe I try to observe the people and see what kind of reactions they have when we come by. If they kind of hide and go away, and definitely that kind of puts a gunner on alert, to look out for something. Because when they aren't very responsive to us, then it's a normal day. If they kind of bring their kids back, maybe go inside, then you kind of got to be a little bit heightened on your awareness to see what's going on.
Actually, many of the routes that we've done them several times now, and we've become very familiar with them. Okay. So we notice changes on the route, and we notice what stays the same as well. So usually once we find something that is different or out of the ordinary, that's when the stakes are upped a little bit and we start to get a little more nervous and pay attention.
On the hour-and-a-half-long drive to the location of the potential mines, the RCP team connects with their coalition counterpart.
Operations in North Afghanistan very much embody international cooperation. For this area, it's often a U.S. RCP team, route clearance team, operating with a Swedish EOD team to complete their missions.
Our coalition partners use us almost every mission they go out. They're an infantry unit mostly, and so we'll go out and provide freedom of movement for them, so that they can go into areas and not have to worry about the threat so much.
The threat Lieutenant Harrival is speaking of grows tremendously when his troops have to leave their armored vehicles, which is necessary for gaining good intelligence in the area.
The security for this area is very dependent on the locals who are living here. They're the eyes and ears of what's happening in their own area, and the U.S. troops are very dependent on that information. So any RCP convoy they have, they like to dismount, come into these villages, these markets, talk to the locals, find out what they've seen or possibly who they've seen, and if it's an insurgent, find out what they might have been doing.
How is the relationship with the Afghan National Police in this area? Do they come through quite a bit?
This local shopkeeper says he told the Afghan National Police about people putting mines in the mountains. It's something that occasionally happens here, he says. He wasn't sure if the police had actually done anything about it. With their new intel, the route clearance team proceeds a few miles down the road to the location of the suspected mine. While one team sets up a security perimeter, the others prep their gear to start their search.
As you're walking up the hill, we were searching for our marker, but as you can tell, it was kind of rugged and there's a bunch of vegetation. So we found them, pointed out to EOD, and our EOD counterparts started looking for it, making sure, doing their hands-on interrogation. While they were getting ready to go get their charge to prep and blow the UXO, they found out that was just a can, and we continued up looking for the other point where we found the other UXO, but we couldn't find it, and it was just a small piece of it, so they just called it clear and came back down the mountain.
Unfortunately, some of the mines in this area, they do look like cans, and that's the reason that the enemy makes them that way, because people go up and pick them up, and that's how they get us.
This time it may have just been a can, but it shows how thorough this RCP team scans for potential threats. About halfway through the mission, local Afghan security forces arrived on the scene. By next year, as international combat forces withdraw, they will be expected to conduct these types of missions on their own. In comparison to southern Afghanistan, the North has seen far fewer casualties and insurgent activity, which makes the U.S. troops here hopeful for continued success. Their Afghan counterparts are a bit more apprehensive. The Americans have a lot of possibilities for route clearance, everything, but we have nothing right now. Sometimes we dig IED by shovel. The RCC should have special things to do this with, not shovels. These are our problems, he says. Captain Kaher was excited to hear the German military announce they would stay in this area past the NATO withdrawal deadline of 2014, continuing with their assist and advise mission in the north. For us, it's not different if it's the Germans or the US. We just need one of them to cooperate. We need that cooperation, he says.
They're very limited on resources. They don't have the resources that we have or the resupply that we have. So in many cases, they'll just collect the item and take it somewhere else.
When we find these things, it's my job to go over there and dig them up. I will do it and I will be successful, he says about his dangerous job. And back at Camp Marmal, the troops reflect on their equally dangerous deployment.
I was deployed to Iraq in 03 and 04, and we got hit by a couple IEDs in our Bradley fighting vehicle. It's definitely a life changer when you get hit by an IED. They're loud, depending on how close they are, is depending on what you feel at that time. And we've had some that were 3 feet away, and it'll rock your world, as everybody puts it, that we were out with that time.
A lot of guys show us a lot of respect for going out and clear the routes for them. Some people think we're a little crazy, but we do help out, especially transport. The guys that move equipment around day in, day out, they really appreciate what we do when we go out for them. So.
At first when we got in the country, it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but as we've gone and we've picked up a good op tempo, it really doesn't get to us as much. And same with our guys, they were a little bit nervous at first, but it doesn't really get to us too much now.
You really start to see what your job is and how you're supposed to do it, because you don't want somebody else to drive over that's not as prepared as you.
Alex Pena, Stars and Stripes, in Mazar-e-Sharif, Afghanistan.